Let this play for a minute and populate. Get some viewers to join in. Thank you for joining us tonight for our town hall meeting. I'll be right back. Let me make sure we got things set up here. Just 1 second. Okay, thanks for joining us, everybody. We're going to give this another minute or so for folks to get in, and then we'll get started. Okay, perfect. All right, Amanda, can you hear me? All right, good. We are streaming on Facebook as we speak, so I'm just going to give folks a minute to log on here, and then we'll get started. We appreciate everybody for joining us. Thank you so much. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Belpre City Schools November 2021 Virtual Town Hall. I'm excited to be able to meet with all of you again virtually and to provide an update to you folks about how the school year is going and some exciting announcements that we have as we move forward. So to start us off, today, we're going to talk a little bit about our Kids on Campus program. Please welcome Amanda Brooks. She's the Assistant Program Manager for Kids on Campus. And she's going to talk with us today about an exciting new high school or grade 7 through 12 after school program that she and her colleagues are heading up. So without any further ado, I'm going to kick it over to you, Amanda. Thanks for joining us tonight.
No problem. We're just actually wrapping up after school program here. Dismissing the kids at the building, so I'm like, I think I can talk for just a minute. What's that? Sorry. Okay, got it. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. So we did just start the after school program. Monday was our first day. The after school program is funded by a grant from the Ohio Department of Education. My organization, Kids on Campus, worked with the school district in the spring to write a competitive grant proposal that was funded, so we're very, very excited about that. It is a 5-year grant program to support after-school and summer learning opportunities for students at Belpre in grades 7 through 12. The grant has 4 main objectives: reading or English language arts intervention, math intervention, positive youth development, and parent, family, and community engagement. So the way that we accomplish this is to have after-school programming. Right now it's running Monday through Thursday from 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. The kids have a snack, and then they do math or language arts intervention activities. Those can include time to work on their homework. It can include prescribed computer-based activities. It can include activities developed by the teachers to help them gain skills either in math or English language arts, depending on what day it is. It can also include credit recovery for your high school students. We have a gentleman in the program right now that's what he's working on to make sure that he can graduate. And those activities are kind of prescribed for them. And then they also each day get enrichment clubs. And that's for older kids, how we get them in the program, basically. If they're credit deficient, they'll come, but mainly it's the fun stuff that we're offering. So this semester, we are still developing the program. We like to have student voice in the development of the program, so we're on the ground floor right now. But this semester, Monday, we're offering Pinterest Club is what we're calling it. So the kids are actually going to get to use some software and design t-shirts for the after-school program. They're going to get to do the front of their t-shirt. They're going to collaborate together on a design that's going to rep the program, and then the back of the t-shirt is actually going to be their own design. Tuesdays we're doing the cooking club or food with science. Anytime I can add food to the high school kids program, they come more. Wednesday, actually today, we started doing something that's called a Young Entrepreneur Pitch Challenge. So if you've ever seen the show Shark Tank, it's a little bit like that, where the kids are actually going to identify a problem in the community and then either a product or a service that might be able to solve that problem. And then we're going to work to hopefully have them each deliver a 2.5-minute pitch to try to sell that. And we are going to have a little contest and have some prizes and things like that. And that is helping them develop entrepreneurial skills and also identifying needs in the community. Thursdays, we're going to be doing roller coaster club, so where they are using both Legos and physical things to develop their own roller coasters and using engineering principles to do that. And then also we're also going to use some online apps and stuff where they can, one of them is Roller Coaster Tycoon, where they can develop roller coasters like that, and it's got a virtual reality module that we use with it. The carrot we're using for the program, specifically with Roller Coaster Club, is kids that complete the requirements for that club. We are planning to take on a field trip at the end of the year to an amusement park, so they can do a tour and ride roller coasters. So that's again something to help get kids into the program and want to come. We are required to involve community partners. So I'm very interested to be on this call today to see what kind of community partnerships that their people might be interested in. And honestly, I can take all kinds of community partnerships, whether it's if you want to volunteer or if you want to do some kind of supply drive, or we're going to have a family event and you have an organization that might be willing to provide a meal, or you might be willing as an entrepreneur or small business owner to come and talk to the kids about what you do. There's really all kinds of opportunities for organizations and individuals to get involved with the program. So it's a requirement of the program, actually. So I'm really excited to be on the call today to kind of chat up the program and see what kind of connections we can put out there. So that's my spiel.
All right, awesome. So it sounds like, both for community partners or for students, there's a lot of elasticity in the program, and we are able to partner and to design opportunities in addition to the math and ELA enrichment that we're going to offer to support students and to develop them in ways that they would like. Is that correct, Amanda?
That's 100% correct. It's an awesome program to work for. I have personally worked for kids on campus since September of 2010. This is one of our major funding sources. We are involved in 5 other school districts and run these types of programs, and I can tell you that the flexibility that this program offers just makes it really fun to work with the kids, and especially older kids, because they have opinions, clearly, and sometimes they don't feel like they're given the opportunity to express those opinions, and we are constantly here asking them, what do you want to see in the program? And then it's my job, it's the leader's job to go and find those programs for the kids. And to keep them engaged when you can't find exactly what they want, but it's something close. So, but yeah, giving them a voice in the design of the program is 100% what we want to do.
All right, so I'm going to turn over. Do we have any questions out there from either Facebook or YouTube?
We have 3 questions
okay.
from Facebook tonight, and the first one I love, and it kind of comes with a wink, but one of our viewers would like to know if they're taking 62-year-olds for the program to sign up and participate.
Not to participate, although you get to hang out with the kids, and it's not like there's a wall between you and them. So if you want to come and volunteer in the program, we are always looking for good mentors for the kids. So if you feel like that, showing kids that you can participate at any age with a new activity and learn, we would be down for that.
All right.
So I love that, Amanda, because it piggybacks right on our next question, which is how do people get to volunteer, or how do they reach out to find out if they can participate and volunteer with your program?
So I need to give you contact information, and I'm not 100% sure how to do that. I do have an office at the high school. My extension is 202. If you would like to call and leave a message, I will get it that way. I do have an email address as well. I am an employee of Ohio University. We are a contractor. So my last name is Brooks, and you can see it right there on the screen. So my email is brooksa1, the number 1, at ohio.edu. You can send me an email.
I wonder if you guys could drop that in the chat for folks, if you could. Yeah, brooksa1 at ohio.edu.
On this slide, there's a general email on here that says kids on.
Merged with the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission, the OFCC, and was established to support school districts for money that they may need for capital projects. And so, similar to the way that we're funded by foundation payments from the state, the more wealthy or the more poor that your district is perceived to be, the more or less dollars that the state will kick in to support a community in its building project. And so you'll see here, I provided slides from Fanning Howey, our partner, who's been excellent to us. From a period of 2011 till 2021, you can see that in 2011, Belpre would have had to put up 78% of the cost of a new building, and the state would have contributed about 22% of the cost of a new building. And as we've gone through the years, in the eyes of the state, our school district has been perceived to be less wealthy, which in 2019 seemed to bottom at 52%, and now at 55%, which is the rate that if the school district, if the Board of Education passes the facilities plan later this month, would be our lock-in rate. And so under this scenario, Belpre would need to put up 55% of a new building project, and the state would provide the remainder, which is a great deal for Belpre. When we put the last facilities in the 1950s and 60s, we paid full dollar for any facility construction, and the state is going to contribute roughly $22 million towards future facility construction for Belpre City Schools. Now that number is subject to change. Once we get a little further in the process, OFCC will actually do another calculation, so that number could go up or down depending upon our enrollment at that time. But the bottom line is the state is going to contribute a significant amount of money if, as a community, we decide to go that direction and to implement the facility master plan. Another program that I want to make sure I defined is called the ELP, which is the Expedited Local Partnership Program. So back in 2009, Belpre City Schools actually had priority from the state for funding for a new building, and at the time in our history, it wasn't discussed with our community. And so when we told the state that we weren't ready to move forward, we went to the back of the line. And so other school districts have priority for new funding because our window came up about, oh gosh, I guess 12 years ago. So at this point, there are other districts that have priority, and so the state doesn't have sufficient funds to cover all projects that folks want to do. So what happens under the ELP program is we define our facility master plan, which I'll discuss in just a moment, and then we put up a levy to build the first phase of that project. And so in this case, we would put up a bond to fund the construction of a 6 through 12 building with shared space. And by shared space, I mean you would have a cafeteria, you would have 2 gymnasiums, you would have office space, you would have a library, the kinds of space that kids would share. And then you would have a 6-12 portion of that building, and you would have an elementary school K-5 portion that would be built at a later date when the state provided its share. So under phase 1, we would build a 6 through 12 with mixed space, and then when the state contributed its share, we would complete the project with the PK5 portion of the building. So the OFCC does provide us with, based on our enrollment, the amount of square footage that they will co-fund, and in our case, they have told us that they will co-fund 145,543 square feet. That number is also up to change depending upon enrollment when we get a little bit closer to an actual building. And they would co-fund the demolition and abatement of old school buildings. Now that's what the state will contribute towards the construction of a building. But there are also other needs that are called locally funded initiatives, or LFIs. And LFIs can be needs or wants that a school district thinks is important in a new school building, but that the state won't co-fund. So for example, we've already, and I'll talk in a moment, forecast that 145,543 square feet would be insufficient for our enrollment needs, particularly when you look that the state actually believes that we're going to grow in enrollment over the next 10 years. So any investment that we make now, we understand is going to be the building that Belpre will utilize for the next 40, 50, 60, and in the case right now, 75 years. So we have to make sure and be mindful that we have the appropriate academic and support space in the building to cover that need for that long. So that's at least one LFI, or locally funded initiative, that we would need, which is some additional space. Any of those other types of needs that we might have, which would include athletic facilities, which could include some specialized things in the building, we would need to fund as an LFI separate and apart from what the OFCC would contribute. So as I mentioned, our committee has worked for several weeks and given a great deal of time. And their task was to think about, we have 2 sites. We have one here on the Rockland site, and we have one downtown where the high school is. And they talked, for hours about which site would be more appropriate. And I'm pleased to be able to announce tonight that after a great deal of discussion, that the facilities master's plan is going to proceed with utilizing the downtown site. So there is an illustration here. I want to caveat that this is not the building design. This is just showing you what that 145,000 square feet might look like if we built on this site. So please don't think that this is what it would look like. It's not. It's just illustrative to show you the amount of space. So Facilities Master's Plan is going to build in the first phase a 2-story 6 through 12 building and mixed space right here, which, as I said, would be office, 2 gymnasiums, a cafeteria, and a media center. And then later, when the state submits its portion of the project, we would complete the K-5 portion on campus and would also build the playground space requisite for that. Under this proposal, we would also keep the existing varsity gym. We would button that up. We would add a wall so that we could have a 3rd gymnasium on site. We felt that that was actually a pro of this particular site. It's difficult to have cheerleaders, middle school basketball, high school basketball, and youth basketball teams to have sufficient space to be able to practice and learn and grow. And so under our facility master's plan, we would build on the downtown campus, but we would keep that old gymnasium as part of our campus infrastructure. This looks all tidy on paper, but again, this comes after hours of conversation and lots of stakeholder input, and we believe to be the best possible position for our future campus and for the needs that our learners will have as we move forward. Under the Facilities Master's Plan, that we would demolish and raise the buildings here at the Rockland site, and according to state law, we would then offer that property for development. So that is what the Facility Master's Plan looks like from a building footprint standpoint. I did talk a little bit about locally funded initiatives. Our committee spent a great deal of time on that and actually ranked out for us what they believed were priorities for a new building. As I said earlier, additional academic area was key. Folks felt like we needed to spend additional dollars to make sure we had the appropriate amount of space. So you'll see that that was the highest priority of our stakeholders. But the second highest was a flexible performing arts space. We heard a lot of conversation from stakeholders that we have a robust arts program and that they would like to see space for that, and that the community also just has a general need for that type of space in Belpre for our community to enjoy. So you can see a picture of what that space might look like. Again, that's not what we're saying the space will be. It's just an illustrative graphic, but it is the type of space that we would contemplate funding. As I mentioned, button up the high school gym as an LFI, an exterior design in brick. A lot of conversation about having an aesthetically pleasing exterior to the building was something that was important to the committee, so we would put a little extra money into the exterior. This is not what the exterior will look like, but again, you can see that a little bit of extra money was spent on this building for a brick facade out front instead of the block on the side. Again, not what we're saying it would be, but that's the type of idea of what we're talking about. A new track, upgraded flooring using terrazzo flooring in some portions of the building, which is a more expensive flooring product, but that which over time has less maintenance cost. A larger upgraded playground. Lots of parents talked about the need for additional playground space in Belpre. That's family friendly, and so we felt that it would be wise to spend additional money on a playground so that our community, first of our students could have it, but also so that our community could utilize it. And then the lowest priority, but still on our list of LFIs, would be a weight room to support the athletic student athletes in their programming. So that is the rank order of LFIs. We don't know which LFIs we would be able to fund. It will depend on market conditions at the time that we begin construction, but this is the priority list that we have. We're happy to take questions on that and discuss that further. But what would happen is once we get to that point, we would, in the construction, we would allocate funds towards LFIs. Also, just of note, if we were to pass a bond levy in 2022 to build a new school, construction would cost a year later, and as many folks and viewers are aware, construction costs have been going up, and so we won't really know what LFIs we can do until we get closer in time and can allocate those dollars. We do take very seriously our stewardship of our tax dollars, and we believe that these would be the most adequate investments for our future campus footprint that would make sure our students have what they need, but that would also be used as good safeguards of taxpayer funds. So in summary, during its November 15th, 2021 regular board meeting, the board is going to consider the master facility plan recommendation. And that recommendation is to build a new PK-12 school building on the existing high school site in 2 phases. The first phase would be a 6-12 building and shared space, and that is with our local share with the bond that we would put up. And then the state, when its money is available, will pay for the second phase, phase 2, which is the K-5 wing on that new building site. And then, as I mentioned, we would fund as many LFIs as possible at that point with the money that we have available after securing the bond, understanding what the market conditions are for both construction and inflation. So I'm going to pause there, and I'm going to take questions. Make sure we don't linger too long, because I've got other things to talk about tonight, but I am very curious to hear your thoughts. As I said, the board will hear this on the 15th. There will be a special board meeting on November 29th, where the school board meeting will actually formally consider this, and then they will have a second vote in December to contemplate putting an ask on the ballot in May of 2022. So that's what it looks like. So we're in the process of thinking about that. Again, we want to hear from you. We would like to hear your questions. We would welcome you at the board meeting. We want to make sure that with an investment and a conversation of this magnitude, that folks have an opportunity to be heard and express their opinion. So, Mrs. Keeling, what questions do we have?
So some good feedback. We've heard from a couple of our viewers that they think this sounds like a great plan. But some clarification, if you wouldn't mind, quickly, where exactly would it be built? And one question specifically is inquiring, would it be built where the old bowling alley is?
Yeah, so the plan would be to build in that general area of town, where we have that marching band's practice space, and we have soccer field space over where that bowling alley is. That would be where the building would be constructed on that part of land. And the reason why we would build there is because you would have to build there first, and then once you got that building built, you could bring the high school kids over from the current building to the new building, so that you could flatten the high school building, so that you would have the space to then build the elementary portion onto that site. So that's why we would have to build in that small space on that part of campus in order to have the appropriate space to start construction, and then allow for students to come over, raise those buildings, and then build the elementary portion.
Okay.
Yeah, great question.
Another great question, what's the timeline for completion?
Yeah, so assuming the Board of Education passes the master facility plan and recommends the placement on the ballot in May of 2022, we are told that design would take roughly 1 year, and then construction on the 6 through 12 portion and the shared space would be completed in 2 years. So if we were successful in May of 2022, possibility forecasting now, it would be designed and completed by May of 2025. That would be for the first phase. The timeline of the second phase is less sure. It would depend on when the state's share of money would come through. If we are successful in a levy passage, Mr. Irwin and I would be engaged in Columbus lobbying to get that money to us as soon as possible, so that we could have as little lapse as possible in lead time and completion of the project.
Okay, and it looks like for right now, that does it for all of our questions on this portion of your presentation.
Okay. All right. Again, we would love to hear from you. Please attend our board meeting on the 15th. I'm going to give this exact presentation at that time as well, and we would look forward to it. One more question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's do it. While we're here.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
So would extra special education things be included in regular plans, or would that need to be an LFI? And this person even gives great examples. So a specialized playground, a sensory room, OT, speech, PT. How do you keep that part growing, and what part is it included in? Yeah, so
as I said, the OFCC is going to co-fund about 145,000 square feet. And we know that from an LFI standpoint, we're going to need additional square footage. So as we've discussed the square footage needs, we have allocated space for a sensory area in the building for OT, PT, offices, and space. Some of that is subject, again, to market conditions and the amount of money that we have at the end, but we forecast that we would be able to have sufficient space for special education needs over and above what we currently have now in our facility structure. Great question.
Okay, and just more great feedback.
Okay.
It's going really well. One more quick question. Practice space for band and soccer included in this new plan?
Yeah, so we would keep the existing practice fields at the, I don't know my coordinates. What do you think, Matt? Is that the north side of the site? Where the practice field is just adjacent to the football field. That site would be available for folks to utilize. And the other question was band.
Yep, band and soccer.
Yeah, we would have to coordinate with those groups to have those fields for use by those different entities. Yeah, it would require some planning to make sure we have that where it needs to be. But that would be the field space that we would have available at the north end.
Okay, and that looks like we've got it. Of course, we can
Okay.
circle back around.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions or anybody joins us and has something, we'll pause for questions after the next part of the conversation as well. Turning to COVID. So the last time we met, the 45714 zip code showed about 11 cases over a 2-week period. And at the time, we weren't sure about masking and facial coverings, but just a couple weeks later, as you all are aware, because we had to quarantine so many students because of the amount of community spread, that number increased in just 2 weeks to 30 and was as near as 100 cases per 2 weeks on a rolling average during several portions of the last few weeks. We appreciate our community's patience and support as we transition to a facial covering policy, as we are all doing all that we can to keep our students in our building. I'm very pleased to be able to report tonight that the cases have fallen back to the numbers that we saw last August, which is about 20 cases on a rolling 2-week average, and I'm being told that we think that that number will continue to decline. At the same time, we've also seen a dramatic decrease in the number of COVID-19 positive students in our school building. In fact, my understanding is in the last 14 days, we've had 2 active cases. And at one point, early in August, or excuse me, early in September, I think we had nearly 20 cases. Just to show you the dramatic decline we've seen in COVID, both in our community and in our school space. At the same time, some of you are probably aware that the Department of Health has released new guidance called Mask to Stay, Test to Play, which would also dramatically reduce the number of quarantines. So under this new regulatory guidance, which we have not yet adopted, but which is available to us, direct contacts in a school environment, regardless of vaccination status, can remain in the classroom if they wear a mask and monitor for symptoms. So in the past, when we had one student who was positive, we did contact tracing, there were 6 contacts. All of those contacts would have to go home. Under this new policy, they could remain in school, however, they would have to wear a mask, and if they showed a symptom at that point, they would need to quarantine. The ODH provided this regulatory update after they did a large study in several school districts over last month, where they tested a number of students, and they felt that given what they saw in that study, that this would be a more appropriate policy to balance the needs of families and students to be in school while also trying to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The other part of this policy is Test to Play, which would allow athletes to continue to engage in athletic contests as long as they are negative, but they would actually have to test in order to continue to participate in athletics. Again, that would not be the case for students in school. They would just need to wear a mask, but if you are an athlete, it would require you to take a test twice in order to continue to operate with the team. In other news, just yesterday, in fact, COVID-19 vaccinations for children ages 5 to 11 were approved. And so, and I haven't even updated the slide since, we've been able to partner with, I believe it's Rite Aid, who's going to offer children to ages 5 to 11 vaccinations on our campus next Friday. I believe that's November 14th?
November 12th.
November 12th, thank you. Next Friday, November 12th in the afternoon. We will have that available for students if they would like to receive it. Now, I want to be very clear on this point. The vaccination is totally optional. There is no requirement that students of any age vaccinate, and they will not be given without written parent consent and without a parent being present. So if you are a family that would like to have your child receive the new Pfizer vaccine, we will be updating probably in the next day the appropriate permission slips for that, and a parent would need to be physically present with us on that day, Friday, to get your child vaccinated. We do not have a position on vaccinations, so we encourage parents to discuss the vaccination with their pediatrician and to make an informed choice that is appropriate for their child and family. So after discussing with your medical provider you would like to go forward with that, we will have that available for families, and we'll offer that first vaccination in November, and then we will schedule a follow-up time in December. So weighing all of that, weighing the decrease in COVID-19 spread that we're seeing, the new mask guideline, quarantine guidelines, as well as availability of vaccination, my recommendation to the board is that we immediately implement the mask to stay and test to play, so that if students are close contacts, that they would not have to quarantine, but they would be permitted to stay in class as long as they wear a mask and they monitor themselves for symptoms. And then starting January 4th, 2022, when we come back, we would fully rescind our facial covering policy to mask optional. I know that there are some folks that would like to see us rescind that more quickly than that, but this will allow those families that would like the opportunity to vaccinate their child to get their second shot, and then have the 2 weeks for full immunity to kick in, or at least the immunity that the vaccination will allow. So my recommendation to the board is that we implement that quarantine policy now, and that starting on January 4th, Matt, we would move to a mask optional facial covering for all students. But I will caveat that by also saying that we'll continue to monitor any possible spikes due to winter weather, and that could change between now and then. But from what I'm being told, I believe that will be the case that will happen. So again, we appreciate everyone's patience, and that will be the most recent COVID-19 mitigation strategies that we'll deploy as a school district. So with that, I'll go back out to questions.
No questions at this point. Just some feedback that our viewership has commented that they were thankful for the flu shot drive-through.
Oh,
that was
great.
Available
Great.
a couple of weekends ago, and just a general thank you for setting up the clinic.
Yeah, great. All right. The last thing then that I'll mention, and I'll just provide a couple more Veterans Day activities coming up. So Lauren, what's the Veterans Day activity at the elementary school?
We're excited. Next Wednesday, November 10th, we will be having a drive-through Veterans Day event, much like we did last year. It was so successful, and we enjoyed the opportunity to interact safely with everyone from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. We invite all of the community, and especially our veterans, to come drive through the horseshoe at our elementary school building and get to see some of the great artwork that our children have done, and listen to the songs that they're singing, and see the videos that they've prepared, and also the displays that our specials team, our fine arts team, work so hard to put together. It's just a really beautiful and special evening, and we'd love to have everyone join us from 7 to 9.
All right, that sounds great.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Our family went last year, and it was really well done. There was really great letters that the students had written to veterans, and Mr. White, I think, takes point on that. Just did a beautiful job.
He does. It's lovely.
Yeah, and look forward to seeing what he comes up for this year. And then my understanding is the high school will be hosting a breakfast that morning for veterans as well. Does anybody have details on that? I believe it's that morning. Contact, if your veteran would like to join us for breakfast, contact the high school, Miss Meredith at the high school, and we'll provide more specific timing for that on Wednesday morning. But we value our veterans. We are grateful for the sacrifices that our veterans have made for us, and look forward to being able to honor that and celebrate their tremendous heroism and sacrifice for us that week as a school district. So I'm looking again for one last call on questions.
Yep, we're thankful tonight to Nurse Megan, who is just taking some of these questions and answering them as they pop up. And
Okay.
We'd just like to, of course, remind everyone that she's a great resource, and reach out to her if you have anything we're not able to cover tonight. But one of our viewers has asked, if I am vaccinated and deemed a close contact, do I still have to wear a mask? And so if you wouldn't mind, I'll read what Nurse Megan answered
please.
that with, and told our viewer that you would still, in fact, be required to wear a mask if you are a close contact.
Yeah, that's the way the current Department of Health guidance is for that student,
Yes.
right?
Yep. And then another viewer just says, thanks for keeping everyone updated. These virtual town meetings, I'm going to interpret this, but are useful and good informers for the community.
Yeah, we're happy to communicate, and again, encourage everyone to attend our board meetings. We appreciate public feedback, and we had an exciting announcement with our master facilities plan. The board will consider that, and we will be engaging with the community later in the winter months as we get forward to a possible bond levy on the ballot for May of 2022. All right, with that, I'm going to sign off, everybody.
Just a quick update. One of our parents has said that the high school event is actually in the afternoon.
Okay.
So they're going to have a great guest speaker who's also a veteran, and there may be a lunch too. So we'll encourage everybody to head to the website tomorrow for Belpre City Schools, and we'll have some information up for them.
Yeah, that sounds great, and we'll update that on our social media feeds as well.
Yep.
We appreciate Miss Meredith and all the work that she does to make that event really special for our veterans every year. Okay. With that, we're going to sign off. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to closing out the week ahead. Thank you.